Oh, okay, try again. Wait a moment, then try again. Okay, and
Hi there. Welcome to Grown Women Growing Well. Thank you for joining us, listeners, subscribers, and guests. Hello, my fabulous co host and my technical support person, Daphne Jones, the
what's
Bitcoin
happening,
educator,
me?
the
What's
smart
happening?
money chick. Hey, I'm recording on my new iPad mini. Yay!
I'm so proud of you.
Thank you. Today we have an amazing guest, and I,
Returning.
yeah, returning, Kat Stancic, the Revenue Accelerator. How are you today, Kat?
I'm good. Had to think about that.
Right. It's Wednesday. Sometimes you got to try and feel it out to know. So, what's been going on since the last time we had you on? I think it's been like 6 months or so, huh?
Yeah, well, there's always progress and forward movement. Actually, what's been interesting is kind of around the last time we spoke, there was a concept that I started kind of playing with that's really taken off in kind of the most extraordinary way. And you know that I've talked about this, Roberta, in terms of firework experiences and
Hmm.
really kind of supporting my clients and educating people around what they are, how they support you, and how you can kind of tap into a little bit of a more of a flow state, leveraging firework experiences to really, gather all of your ideal clients in one place versus what can sometimes feel like door to door knocking in the online space.
Okay. It definitely seems to be a theme right now is to, for lack of a better word, have an event, do a workshop, um, do a little masterminding. It seems like everybody's ready to get back out into some sort of
Yeah.
the live space.
Yeah.
So give us a little more details.
Yeah. So I mean, everything I do is kind of in the digital space. And so of course any strategy can be modified to, kind of expand and contract a little bit like an accordion. So whether you're doing in person or online, there's always little tweaks. But really the whole focus is how do you create quality community, not just community for the sake of bodies in a room. And whether that's a virtual room or an actual in-person room, it's the same philosophy. And a lot of what I see is, I rally against the bro marketers in not a subtle way. And so what I've seen is that there's a kind of a finite set of strategies, kind of like there's only so much land in the world, right? And so yes, you can build a house. You can also take that house and you can build a sky rise or you can build a farm or whatever it is. So there's different options for the different ways that people live and also the different ways that people want to build their business. And so some people do, they want to build an urban area. Other people are like, hey, suburban life is more for me. And so I would do kind of suburban life as a little bit more like a boutique business versus these Fortune, 100, 1,000, whatever number, who are trying to be these huge global conglomerates. And I think that a majority of people don't necessarily want that. It's kind of the seed that was put in our brains growing up that if that you didn't achieve that, that wasn't really success. So anyway, all that to say is the focus is really on the quality, and I always say that the we want to establish quality, and then the quantity will kind of take care of itself. Because when you're creating a room of,
Take care of itself.
right, right, exactly. Because what happens is when you establish that quality, people start becoming kind of your ambassadors, and that's how you create more leverage because you've got people saying, "Hey, you need to come to this thing," whatever that thing is, whether it's an in-person, retreat or a workshop or whatever the strategy might be. And so I've kind of identified the most efficient firework experiences. So these marketing strategies. And what I mean by efficient is that there's no wrong strategy. Any strategy can work if it's in alignment with your strengths and if it's in alignment with your ideal client's focus and what their interest is. However, some strategies take longer to get to market than others. So, we can all come up with the idea of putting on a workshop, for example. And if you've done them before, you can go to market in less than a week. However, if I decided today that I was going to do an in-person retreat, the likelihood of me filling that and pulling it off successfully in a week's time frame is slim to none, even if I was an expert in that space. And so, really looking at how do we create more leverage? How do we go to market faster? And how do we get more people kind of seeing the value of what we do so that they can start making those buying decisions? Now, it's not forced. It's just showing people the opportunity of what's available to them. And that's really how you shrink the sales cycle. It's not just by his high pressure sales approach, but really about providing people opportunity to consume information that feels empowering, not just for the presenter, but also for the recipient.
That's the tough part. Is keeping the recipient focus, is staying recipient
Yeah.
focused. Because it's real easy to start talking about what you know.
Yeah.
I know with the niche I'm in now, Bitcoin, I always have to use Roberta as my proxy because I'll go so far into the wormhole that the eyelids get heavy and it's like, oh, I
Yes.
don't care about that, Daphne. Yeah.
Right. Well, I
Yeah.
mean, part of it is looking at, so that's why I call it an experience, because it's an experience that the other person has of you. So the experience happens, yes, in maybe a presentation, but it also happens in that first experience of that person in terms of that first encounter. So your positioning, is your branding on point? Are your authoritative statements, is your social media profile optimized so that it provides a good experience? Or are you just coming across as a salesy, sleazy person right off the bat? Because we've seen Pitchy Pete. And we know that if someone's talking about, like, and we all know this, someone says they're a financial planner, are you accepting that connection on LinkedIn? The likelihood is not.
Low.
However, that person could position themselves differently and provide a better experience for the person receiving that connection invite. And so looking at how are we creating that, not just in this, strategic, I'm trying to invite the most amount of people or pitch people, like if we're doing like the bros, right? But how they experience you from the first encounter all the way through the invitation to a sales call. There's all of these like little, what I call stepping stones. So most people, for example, are trying to cross a river. They're right here on one side. They see that, the promised land right across the way. And most people can't jump the riverbed from one riverbed to the other right off the bat. Every now and then you got a great athlete. Maybe they got a pogo stick of some kind or whatever the big sticks are to jump over. But what we need to do as entrepreneurs is provide stepping stones. Now, some people are going to be like, oh, that lengthens the sales cycle because you're making and putting decisions in front of them and making them go through hoops. And I'm actually going to take the opposite statement, because people need to consume information in a way that's comfortable for them. People who are trying to force the sales, they're making it about themselves. I'm looking at it from the experience of, what does someone need to go through? What are the questions they need to answer? And am I providing that information and an experience that helps them move across the river in a way that they feel comfortable? Because I don't know, I remember as a kid, like trying to jump that last little bit and just kind of hesitating because I felt like I was going to fall in the water. And maybe that one next stepping stone, that one next experience would be enough for them to actually cross faster and feel confident about getting across.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the kind of stuff that I really try to look at in terms of the strategy that someone's leveraging overall in their business.
Yeah, I will say two things about that. One is something I just keep writing down from different, it sticks in my head anyway, is sell how they buy.
Mm-hmm.
The first time somebody told me that, I'm like, well, what am I supposed to do? Like hit every platform, hit it. Like now I'm confused. I thought I was supposed to write email. Now you're telling me I got to do video. Is that what you mean? And they're like, no, it's exactly what you're saying. Like, okay, maybe they don't need to see everything. Maybe they just see your content on Facebook,
Mm-hmm.
LinkedIn, somebody referred, and they know they're ready to take the full step. Maybe they need, but none of us are selling pencils here. So they're going to need to get some level of comfort. The
Yeah.
other thing is it's a mutual qualification process.
Mm.
If they come into your first thing and they're like, "This is just so," Kat, you're great, but I don't like the way you like to teach to sell, so I'm out. Or, Daphne, this is great, but there's no way I'm ever investing in Bitcoin. Well, at least before everybody's way down the river, checks are written and people are pissed.
Yes.
You know, uh, okay, was that quote "sell how you buy"? Was that
Sell
the
how
quote?
they buy.
Yeah,
Sell how
sell the
they
way
buy.
they buy. Most
Okay.
people sell the way they buy. So if you're someone who likes to read a ton of information, the likelihood is that people will also provide a ton of information. And the problem is that there are buyer types who, if you do that, you're going to lose the sale. And so instead, so I have like 5 different kinds of buyer types. For me, like a producer, for example, is someone who is, they need the facts and they will make a quick decision. They just boom, 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 and they're in it. So if you go on and on about all the benefits and read this case study and
You
here's
just talked your way out
52,
of the sale.
right.
Done that.
However, there are people who need, and I've had these 4, 5 calls before they're ready to make that big investment. And it's not because they're trying to drag their feet, it's because they really need to feel connected and like they can believe in themselves and believe in the person that's supporting them. Neither one of those buying types are wrong, and neither one is a poor reflection on who that person is as a human being. It's just they process information differently. So if we don't show up and provide the information in the way that the other person wants to consume it, then we're leaving a ton of money on the table. And so this is that kind of strategic leverage of, without changing really anything of what you're doing and how you're showing up, you can actually close more sales because you're changing the process and the infrastructure in the back end that provides the information and the experience for the person, so that person gets that decision in the right time frame for them. Right? If we're making it
Mhm.
about that person and not being like, if I don't close this deal, then whatever story you want to tell yourself.
Right.
Okay.
I
So,
tend to do the I need them to see all of my brilliance and tell me how different I am.
Yeah.
So ridiculous. But that's one of my selling points. Like yours, Kat. You're out of biz ops, you're out of bro marketing, right? So that's not really what they want a lot of times. A lot of times they want to know about their content, and that brings them into my world to where I can get them where they need to be after the fact. But if I'm selling in my ego,
Mm.
it's a whole other ball of wax.
Right.
I tend to mess it up. Daphne, I interrupted you there when you were
no,
getting ready to say something.
when, so how do you, okay. So with this sort of niching down, it's, and then it's just focused on, I'm down to one social media platform. I'm on all of them, but when
Mm.
you actually start talking about marketing, I chose to pick the one I like and can focus on. So mine happens to be Instagram. Um, and I really dig video. So that's going to come right behind getting Instagram up and running where I want it to. So
Yeah.
focus on that, get serious focused, get it where you want, then move on to the next one. Because
Mm.
I tried the bobbling, and then nothing, as you know, nothing works. If everything's a priority, nothing is a priority. So when you're saying reaching these different types, how do you do that without going crazy doing all these different things? I mean, how do you keep
Mm.
the marketing focused and still true to what you are, what you're doing out there?
So for me, content is kind of like a business card. So when
Okay.
you go to an event, and yes, this still applies to in this day and age,
Hmm.
if you go to an event, an in-person event, kind of traditional networking, and you show up and you don't have a business card, kind of people are like, what the fuck?
Right.
Right? But if you do have one, they're not really thinking anything negative or positive. You just have a business card, just like everybody else, unless it's one of those cheap print at home kind of business cards. And then, yeah, that's going to hurt you. And so, content for me is, you want to have it because when someone's interested, they're going to start consuming, but it's not
Okay.
necessarily the thing that's going to create the conversion. What creates conversion is these, what I call the firework experiences, which is experiencing you like as a person, because most of us aren't this multinational conglomerate where we have all these salespeople on our team. We are still the product and we are still the brand. And
Right.
so the person needs to get to know us, and they need to trust themselves to do the work, not just me. That's one of the pieces that people don't talk about when it comes to know, like, and trust. Yes, the person needs to know, like, and trust me, but they also need to know, like, and trust themselves, that this as a partnership is going to work out. And so part of that is really understanding and kind of creating this energetic to energetic match. So I have people coming to, for example, one of my firework experiences, my podcast mixer. One of the things that people say about it is it's this amazing community of quality people. Now, I'm not saying that, someone who's brand new in business isn't a quality human being. Of course, they have something to contribute. However, someone who's more established in business wants to hang out with someone who's more established in business 99% of the time. And so when you're able to create a quality community and people see that benefit beyond just you trying to do lead gen, then they have this beyond just you experience. And when they have that good experience of you facilitating, leading, whatever, whether it's a workshop, a mixer, or whatever it is, they see what it's going to be like to work with you. They can't really assess that with your content, but they can see how you think differently, how you show up, your ability to process, your ability to think on your feet. All that gives them indication and insight as to how this relationship is going to play out.
Okay. I got that. So again, you're producing the content via Instagram, YouTube, whatever it is, your blog.
Whatever platform, yeah.
But the point is that at some point you've got to get these folks to want to come to have some experience with you, whether it's be the mixer, the various Zoom type interactions.
Right.
Everyone gives them a different name, breakout, break room, whatever it is. Hey, come to this thing. Let's hang out and talk for a bit.
Whether it's a lot of people, just a few people. And so I'll just break down the firework experience real quick in terms of most people, it's this one size fits all thing that really frustrates me, because one size fits all never looks good on me and it doesn't look good on anybody else. It's just not a couture fit, right? So what I first look at is one of the most important aspects of anybody's business is themselves. What are your strengths? What do you really enjoy doing? How do you show up in the world? Because how many times have we invested in the one solution and we hated it and then never did it again because it was exhausting or it triggered all kinds of sleaze or whatever? Second piece is looking at what are your ideal clients' focus and interest, right? So doing let's say a master class to Fortune 100 CEOs typically isn't going to work because that's not in alignment with their interest and what they're focused on right now. However, if I did, for example, a CEO roundtable, that is more in alignment and it should be in alignment with your strengths. So that's what I mean is your strengths, their focus, and then you pick the strategy. Those are the rungs to the ladder of success. And what happens is that people have these like one-off strategies. So they're doing this thing over here and they're doing this thing over here, but they're not connecting them and they're not stacking them in a strategic way. It's what I call the marketing hug. So instead of having these things all around, you bring them in together and you create this community and this space that you're holding for people so that they get to a place where they make a decision. Because I always say, I don't want a resonant yes, I want a resounding one, because those resentful yeses, they ask for refunds. Those bros, they can talk about everything that they're closing. What I want to see are their refund rates, because I'm certain that one, they've got other bros buying from each other. And two, those refunds, because they took a $20 deposit on a $20,000 offer, those sales are probably not sticking.
I definitely agree with the strategy as a whole needs to make sense, right? Like if I consume your content and then I see what you're doing for your firework experience and I attend and then I go in your Facebook group or I get on your newsletter or we have a chat, it should all have the same flavor. Should all have the same value alignment, I think, with it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not about high pressure sales. So it's one of the reasons I selfishly created this, because I don't like being sleazy and salesy. I can still get absolutely triggered by it. And anyone who says that they don't, who's really super heart centered, they've either done a ton of work and they're really already successful, or they're just lying, right? So, for the people who don't like being aggressive with sales, for people who don't like want to overcome every single sales objection on a call, for the people who sometimes take it personally when they get a no, we create these firework experiences so that more people are saying to you, hey, what's it look like to work with you? How many of us would love for more people to reach out and say, hey, what does it look like to work with you? How easy is it to sell when someone gives you the permission and gives you this big green flag to move forward? It's the times where we're not sure Are we bothering someone? Are we encroaching on their space? Are we being annoying? Those like limbo situations are uncomfortable. And so what
Hmm.
happens? You avoid it. So what do? You avoid lead generation, you avoid sales, and shocker, your business isn't where you want it to be and where you know it can be.
Yeah, it's that whole dating experience where you're not really sure if he likes you, so you're not sure if you should text him or not, but then he texts you, but then you're not, but as opposed to,
Right. So, Roberta, I call that Sadie Hawkins marketing. Right.
yeah,
So it's a way where you create an experience where it feels fine to ask the other person out because the context is there, because the environment kind of facilitates it for that. So even if the person isn't saying, hey, what's it like to work with you? You feel comfortable about kind of claiming that client because the synergy and those connections are there between you and them.
absolutely. No, it's definitely a much better space to be in. Um, and I think there you're getting a real no, or people will just kind of exit stage left, and
Right.
that's okay.
And
You
and
know,
you can turn no's into yes. I I built my entire business learning how to do that, and then going from getting those no's to getting more yeses to then having people ask me out. So
that's
there's
always
always
nice.
a way to turn it into something because, I say it's not just the lead in terms of most people are one-dimensional thinking. It's lead client, right? But if you're
Hmm.
thinking about it from a multidimensional aspect, it's not just the lead leading to a client, it's what the lead leads to. So fine, you're talking to someone, maybe they're not good fit for a client, but they could be a great affiliate, they could be a referral partner, they could be a power partner, they could connect you to another podcast or speaking opportunity. It's just looking at the person as a human and seeing how can we come from every single relationship from this place of service first. Because when you drive the service, when you drive the value, the revenue is right behind it.
Absolutely. Well, and I think there's such a combination there. I get it. You need to learn how to overcome objections, or
Yes.
or why. Like one of my big ones is I don't have time. I mean I can find you the time if that's your objection.
Right.
But if the real objection is I don't really want to do this, then I don't think you should do it, right?
Right.
But making that space and that energy where somebody can be honest is so
Yes.
much different than how I learned sales, which was if you didn't beat them hard enough, you didn't make them say no to you 12 times, if
Mm.
you didn't call them back when they told you you were an absolute jerk, then you're a loser and you don't work hard. And that next check, well, we don't think you deserve, like all that crap. I'm so tired of hearing about overcoming objections in a way that's like me arguing with you.
Right.
you know?
That feels great for everybody involved.
Everybody loves to be told why they feel the way they feel is wrong. Okay.
And this is not to say that, we don't overcome objections. Absolutely. But it's about this alignment aspect. I know that I've overcome objections and I've turned somewhat, several conversations and turned feels a little aggressive, but I invited people to think about things differently. But the
Mhm.
difference is it's coming to the conversation unattached. So you can have an
Yep.
intention. Absolutely. Of course you want to close sales. Of course you get on a sales
Sure.
call and you have an intention. But when the attachment it becomes part of the conversation, it drags it down, right? It's like an anchor and it deflates everything and it starts becoming all about you. When in that conversation, it's not just about the other person, but it's about the relationship that's being built. But if it's one-sided, we know that one-sided relationships typically work out real well, right?
Yeah. Well, and that's going back in the ego, like we talked
Yeah,
about before. If I need to see how fabulous I am through my content, blah, blah. Is it cute? Is it funny? Am I going to get all these comments about how great? Or that's operating out of the ego. Same thing,
right,
right?
right.
I pounded and I got these many sales and these many people objections were busted through and blah, blah, blah. That's the ego,
Yeah.
which is completely different than what you're talking about coming from a place of service or just that release of yes is good and no is good. Let's just get to the truth of what matters. And maybe you do need more time.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is it's part of what we're experiencing in the sales and the marketing dance. There's an opportunity for people to look at how they're showing up too. Are you giving people no's when you're not seeing the value? Right? Are you communicating what the resistance point is? Are you being effective in that? I've seen so many people just as time has gone on, being like, yeah, I'm going to charge high ticket. But when the opportunity presents themselves for them to invest in something that they actually really need, they go, no, 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 that's too much. We got to really look at your relationship with money, the mindset aspect of things, and things being in alignment or not. Is it okay to say no, to say yes to like 20 different lead gen experts out there? Absolutely not. It's not in service of you to do that. You don't want to be working with more than 3 people, and it really shouldn't be more than 2 at any given time, because you don't want all those voices. There's legitimate objections, but don't leave people in limbo. If it's not a right fit, then say it's not a right fit, but find something else maybe that you can support that person with, because I know I've referred people that I think are fantastic. It's just not someone I want to work with, but I think they're great at what they do and they're a fantastic human being.
So top it out at 2, maybe 3 working with.
Yeah. Like 2 is really, I feel like, is about the maximum, because what happens is decision paralysis starts coming
Okay.
into
Mm-hmm.
play, because you're getting this person's opinion, that person's
Mhm.
opinion, and we've all got the BFF in business, right? So there's other voices playing as well
Right.
as the experts that you've invested in.
Yeah, I get it. Because I'm working with multiple folks right now.
Yeah.
Not more than you suggest. But that's because their what is it? Their expertise is in different areas.
Right. So if they're complementary, that's great.
Right,
Right.
right.
But I worked once with like, a business strategist, because we all need them. And I worked with like a speaker coach when I was building out my speaking.
Mhm.
Those two played very well together. But there were times where I got different direction based off
Mhm.
of a same issue from them. And it did keep me in, well, hold on, I don't know. And then going back to that person and this person. And so at the end of the day, there is this aspect of just trusting yourself
Right.
and moving forward, because that hesitation can cost a lot of revenue and relationships too.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, actually, when I started working with you, Kat, my coach, mentor, mastermind person said you need to find a person who does this, and I was like, I think I know who, because they were like, it's just it was a whole different ball of wax. Like, and I needed that super hands on, etc. But you can totally muddy the waters. Like
Mhm.
I just went back through and did a big unsubscribe in my email the other day. So I'm like, okay, these are nice emails to read and they're fun, but I got 20 different, marketing
Right.
people blasting here and I need to get this back down to a
Right.
reasonable amount of, or you can just sit and do webinars all day
Oh
if
yeah.
you're not careful.
Right. Right.
Because what I found is that I need to sit down and actually get pen and paper. I'm a Gen Xer. It is what it is. I can write in cursive also. The and just draw
Millennials
it
can
out.
do that too. I'm just saying, like, the Gen X millennial overlap is there. I'm not zillennial time frame, so I
I
can
know.
write in
I,
cursive.
I have a secret language. Um,
Millennial.
like writing
That's
code
awesome.
where uh, I won't call it flow chart, but where I just start drawing bubbles and lines. Okay, what do you plan for this to do? What is your overall the quote quiet time to think about your business? And you
Mhm.
have to do that every so often because so much stuff will come in. Because I need to do no. Okay, what is it? What's this endpoint? Um, I go back to my training in the core about when we would set up communication sites. What exactly are we planning to do? What does this information have to go?
Mm,
Okay, so then we'll build back. This is going to be wires. This is going to be data, things of that nature. Because I've in helping narrow it down, and also it slows it down too. Because I think we all get into a lot of rush. The
true.
spending
Very
so much
true.
time online, we think it's supposed to be boom and no, and they're building blocks, and it's okay. And even having to remind yourself that it's okay, which I
Yeah.
did today. I'm working on affiliate marketing has to be a part of what I'm doing.
Yep. Big time.
Okay, you're going to have to do a little bit of research. Well, you got some research. You get a coach that helps cut that down for you. But
Mhm.
there's still some things that you have to internalize that you have to learn. And it's okay that it's going to take you multiple hours to get this.
Right.
You can jam them all into a day if you want. I think that's a little crazy, but you can.
Hmm.
Or you can make sure, okay, X amount to literally to here it comes, time blocking. I'm spending 30, 45 minutes, whatever it is, this time period looking over it, getting this particular site, which I know is a great resource, getting in and figuring out how to make this dashboard work,
Mm.
so forth and so on, breaking it down. So giving yourself time, but staying focused. So if that
Yeah.
Yeah.
makes sense.
No, I mean, I remember reading the story about this kid who was in high school and wanted to join the basketball team or whatever. And so he went to his mom and was like, I want to get the newest Air Jordans and the new jersey and the new
Mhm.
shorts and then, just decked out, right?
Right.
So comes onto the basketball field on basketball, it's a court. So this is how great I am with analogies, with
Yes.
sports analogies. So comes onto the basketball court, throws a free show, and does a complete air ball. Doesn't matter that he bought all of the best stuff and that he, dressed himself head to toe in the newest, latest, and greatest gear. The fact of the matter is even though he invested in those things and his mama invested in those things for him, he didn't have the skill set. So I'll take someone with rags on, but who's got the skill set, who can drive that ball down the court versus someone who looks like they've got their stuff together. And this is that bro marketing
Mhm.
stuff. People standing outside of rented houses with rented Lambos with a stack of cash, that they put on their credit card with a, pretend stripper wife ready to light up their cigar with an AK-47. All of that stuff, right, is not a reflection of the human character, right? The real person, because all of that is insecurities. It's all masking. And so really looking at, who you're investing in, what are the results that they get? Do you like the person? Because I've invested in people who are more expensive because I felt a connection with them. I've also invested in people who were less expensive because I had a connection and promptly told them they needed to raise their rates. But there's a difference between what you want and what you're willing to receive. And so really looking at what you're doing exactly, which is taking in information and implementing it and building the skill set. That's one of the smartest ways. And there are times where it's not worth learning it. And so you engage that person. I always like knowing a little information on what it is and how that person can do the thing so that I can have a real understanding of the value of what that person is bringing to the table when it comes to my time. So if I know, for example, that it takes me, let's say, an hour to create a Canva image, right? Or let's say 12 Canva images. Well, that hour is worth more to me for lead generation and sales calls than it is to create Canva. So I happily pay someone $35 an hour to do it for me.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And when you're just figuring your stuff out, where I am, I'd have to take that time out to do the Canva generation.
Right. Well, and I
But
did
I
it
can't
too.
hand it off. So I
Right.
can hand it off at some point.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So and that's why I'm saying the great thing that's happened is that okay. And I still have to remind myself it's okay that this is taking this amount of time. Because I come from a place where this has to get done and you got a list and you haven't hit it and why are you still working on this? And it's like, no, no. Maybe
Yeah.
you overdid the list thing.
Right.
There only should have been 2 things on that list today, not 5.
Yeah.
Yeah.
'Cause you're
I
not
mean,
making
it's
it to those
classic
other ones.
entrepreneur, right? So I know people
Right.
always talk about the, entrepreneurial, kind of ADD, right? Like
Mhm.
always taking on new tasks and getting distracted. And one of the ones that I think that we don't talk enough about is just these expectations that we put on ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And, guilty as speaking, right? Pot kettle situation. I put so much pressure on myself. And then I look around and I'm like, well, who put that pressure on you? I did it to my damn self. No one
Right.
said you
Yeah.
had to do this. No one said you're a complete failure if you don't do XYZ. Actually, you know what? I said it to myself. And
Right.
it's really changing that relationship between being your biggest bully, because a lot of us, come from trauma. And that was something we experienced a lot of in some kind of form or other, to becoming our biggest cheerleader. Because honestly, at the end of the day, the person that needs to believe in us the most is ourself.
Absolutely. Well, and you got to be an adult about it, right? An adult
But I
says,
don't want
"Hey,
to.
I don't want to. Why don't I want to? I really don't want to do this. You know what? Don't do it." Or I don't want to because
Or
I'll be
understand the
vulnerable
consequences
and
of doing it.
I'm gonna fail, and I don't want to fail. Or I don't want to, like Daphne, what you're saying. I don't want to have to learn something else. Damn it! Like,
Right.
just get into that why. I know people are like, "Oh, no excuses. There's only try, or there's no do, there's no try." Whatever. I get it, but get into those reasons and figure out, why am I saying this to myself?
Mm.
Is it
And,
true?
and go back to the diagram. and trust the diagram. Okay, you want to do this. How are we going to get there?
Yeah.
And get some of those other voices out of your head. Like YouTube is going to be real important to the strategy.
Mhm.
Individuals will scare you away from YouTube because I had been. Well, getting the channel started, the work it's going to take. Well, find out because you need it because that's where you shine. That's what you like doing. So you guess we're going to have to figure out how to do it well.
Right.
So,
Oh,
But all
go.
of that is alignment, right? So
It is.
people just this expectation of, well, you know, whenever anybody gets into the modality of starting to chase the revenue, right? Where they're like, well, in order for me to make the money that I want and charge what I want, then I have to work with this kind of person. And I always stop anyone because there's a lot of people who come from that place and it's a space of scarcity and lack.
Mm-hmm.
I always say, all right, I've just deposited $2 million into your bank account. You don't have to worry. You've already traveled the world because I always get that jerk response of, what
Right.
would you do if you had 2 million? I'd travel the world. Okay, you've done that. You're ready to really engage in your passion. Who do you want to work with? Because you can monetize any industry.
Sure
You can
can.
monetize any person that you want to work with, but it has to be fed from passion. If it's fed from ego, you're always going to be in a one down position. And a one down position is not empowering, not for yourself and not for your clients. People can feel that. And so if you're coming from this true place of service, really infused with passion, knowing that you know your stuff, and the only thing between you and your goal is knowing about marketing, knowing about sales, knowing about whatever it is, YouTube, strategy, then you know where to focus your energies. But you have to be connected to that ideal client. Anytime I see a revenue dip, whether it's in my business or someone else's business, 99% of the time, it's because your marketing is not in alignment with your ideal client. Meaning you're thinking you're talking here, but you're really talking here. And that creates a revenue gap. And the longer you spend, the bigger and bigger that gap gets, and the more
Yeah.
frustrated you get because you think you're talking to the right person, but you're not.
How do you figure out that you're talking to the person you need to be talking to? How does
If you're
one?
getting on sales calls and they're not closing, if you're getting on sales calls and it's not the right person, then
Mhm.
your marketing is off. If you're not even booking sales calls, your marketing is off.
mm-hmm.
You either have a marketing problem or a sales problem. And most people, honestly, like, I'm going to get a lot of slack for this. I think sales is one of the easiest things you can do because
Mhm.
somebody should be ready to buy once you get on a sales call. So
Okay, by the
all the
time
heavy
we're actually
lifting,
talking to each other,
yeah,
it's
all the
buying the
heavy lifting is
blow.
done with your marketing.
Okay.
That's why I focus so much on lead generation, because you can have the worst sales call, and I have had them, the worst sales calls, and they'll still close if it's the right lead. But you can have the best sales call, and if it's the wrong lead, it's not going to close. That's
Yeah.
why the focus needs to be on who you're really wanting to work with and having it fueled by that passion. It's basic, it's simple, but time and time again, these are the most revenue intensive focused strategies that produce results. Because
Yeah.
even seven figure and multi seven figure and $1 billion businesses, the person, the CEO may not be doing the work, but someone in the business is. And it always comes down back to foundations.
Well, basketball is 100% about the basics. You
Run the
can't hit your
drill.
jump shot. I don't want to see a dunk.
Exactly.
You won't get
And
to the dunk if you can't hit a jump shot.
No, you
yeah,
hurt yourself and then you take
yep,
yourself out of the game. And so now you've caused yourself more harm than good
yeah,
because you're trying to be all fancy.
yeah. It's funny. We just read an email from my mentor, my overarching mentor in marketing, and he said list, offer, and I don't even remember what the third was. Oh, content. List, offer, content. And that's exactly what you're saying. Your list is
Who
your
you're
ideal
connecting with.
client,
So mine's,
who you're
connect,
connecting with.
convert, close.
Sure.
Who are you connecting with? How are you
Who are you
having the
connecting with?
conversation? How are you inviting someone to
Right.
that close?
And offer is 100% your real value proposition. Do you
Yep.
know why I should buy from you instead of someone else? Because that does a whole bunch of stuff for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then the content, which feeds back into, right? But definitely, I think people I know I struggled with this a lot with the list. Like, okay, it should be a whole lot of people. But that's what you're saying again about the firework experience. It doesn't have to be anywhere near a whole lot of people. It just needs to be the right people, quality people.
Exactly.
And they don't all have to buy all the time. It doesn't mean, okay, I only put 10 on my list instead of 1,000, so all 10 are going to buy. But I mean, not to belabor the point, but
Right.
that
But those,
quality.
it's the ego numbers, right? Of being like,
Yeah.
I've got 50,000 people on my list. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want your list to come anywhere near me, because the likelihood is that the people on that list are typically tire kickers and freebie seekers. And that's great. I'm not their person. So I don't want them on my list. I grow my stuff very intentionally. I do it over time, but I fill my pipeline consistently with quality. And the reason I put so much effort into that is because it creates the ease in the conversation, it creates the
Hmm.
ease in filling the groups, and it creates the business that supports my lifestyle. So, yeah, I'm putting strategic effort, but then I'm also taking time off. I have 3 kids under the age of 8. I don't have time to waste.
Yeah.
I
I
don't,
got I got a beach out in front of me. I can't be sitting here
right?
trying to
I'll
beat
take
around.
that. Want to switch today? A week?
Yeah, I've been there. It's
Oh, Kat, I would totally switch, but I cannot promise the state of your children when you get
I
back. I'll
understand.
have to bring Daphne in with me.
no, we'll just
'Cause,
be at the beach finding
mm,
stuff.
yeah.
Right?
My children are kind of burnt. Well, hey,
And that's a problem because I am translucent. So I either am this color or that color. So there's no in between.
We can sunblock them up.
oh no, but
So go ahead,
Florida's
Daph.
so
Sorry.
pretty. So, but
Yeah.
we'll get off the beach.
Yeah.
That beach, I was like, hey, this is it.
But so this kind of comes back to a little bit of what we were talking about. And it's, people are always like, well, how do you plan your year? How do you plan your 90 days and all this stuff? And it's always the big rocks first, right? You've got the container, and we've seen the professor do this, thing, whatever. So what do you put in? You've got this, like, you've got sand, you've got pebbles, you've got rocks, and you've got
Mhm.
boulders. And so what are you going to put in the container first? You put the big rocks. That's vacation. That's time off. That's whatever that you self-care time. Then you start putting the bigger rocks right in there. And then there's still more space. And there's always more space if we're willing to do things strategically. But if you just start dumping stuff in because you're trying to go fast and furious, you're going to leave a lot on the table, and you're just wasting resources, and you're wasting your time and, honestly, other people's time.
Right. Right.
Well, we usually pick the things that look sexy first, right? Like, I'm going
Well,
to set my massive income goals so I
Oh my
can
God. I
oh
hate
God.
that. I hate it when people do
do.
that. Let me create your $1,000,000 plan and I'll charge you $5,000 for it. I actually saw someone do it the other day. And I was like, $1,000,000 plan on paper is just about as good as taking that piece of paper to the bathroom with you, right? Like, it doesn't help. Where's the strategy? What are you doing intentionally to build visibility? It's one of the reasons why I do the podcast mixer. I'm not stupid about it. Why do I do a podcast mixer? Because my people use visibility as a way to grow and reach more people. It's a qualifier. But most people are just out there hitting the connect button because they know that they need to connect to so many people, but they're not qualifying. So they're not putting that strategic effort into taking 30 seconds to look at someone's profile and determine whether or not there's even something that can be mutually experienced, whether it's a client or not. I'm not tied to it. But I don't need to connect with 50 financial planners. They're not
Well,
my people.
what you get from that is, because you still find it in marketing, is that see who's in your field and connect with them.
Yeah.
Who's the influencer? If you're talking Bitcoin on Instagram, who's talking Bitcoin on Instagram? Because you're trying to swipe each other's followers, or not swipe, but connect with each other's followers and stuff like that. So you do that, and then you'll always catch up with or follow everyone back. And then somebody will jump in your DMs. Do you need a virtual assistant? Really? Did you pick that up from looking at my profile that I needed a virtual assistant?
They're working numbers.
I mean, I never remember posting an image that said need virtual assistant. Because some folks will do that. Say, yeah, we're looking for X, Y,
Mhm,
DM
mhm.
us. So
Yeah, but they're not actually, for the most part. So usually it's a positioning strategy of, oh, they're hiring. So that means that they're bigger than who they
right.
are. I know some people who used to do that. Every
Mm.
month they'd be, hey, we're hiring, we're growing so much. And then they would do these images of them with all of these team members. Well, they were all like 2-hour VAs from the Philippines or India or something like that. And they're like, look at our amazing team. I'm like, that you paid $2 an hour for. um, yeah, it's, I don't mind the pitching as much as I used to. I used to really get mad. I used to really, and sometimes I'd lay into someone and be like, who do you think you are? Blah, blah, blah. And now I kind of take a step back and I go, you're learning. You'll learn. I can't
Yeah,
make you wrong. You're not going to buy from me,
because
right? Like we're
you
not
gave
in
it a
the same
shot.
place.
Give it a shot.
Yeah.
Because
And
somebody might say, yeah.
they might, and they might find someone who can turn it back on them and provide them the support that that person really needs to grow. But the likelihood is that person has invested in somebody who has taught them this strategy, and they need to have it, they need to get it out of their system. Right. And I'm not here for that. Like, and so just keep running by and, I'll see you later.
Hmm.
It
Ain't
doesn't mean
nobody
that they're
got
a
time
bad
for that.
person. They just got bad marketing advice, right?
I'll take the full on sales pitch over the Roberta, what's going on in your business?
Yeah.
What are your goals this year? I'm
Right.
like, you don't know me. So first
What
of
are
all,
your
you're throwing
challenges
bait.
right now?
What
That's
are your
my
challenges
favorite.
right now?
What the hell?
Uh,
I'm not gonna like tell you my challenges.
I don't know you.
Everything's great. Thanks for asking.
Thanks. Could you handle $100,000 more a year in income? What would that do to your
Would you
life?
oh, my favorite's been that reverse one, which is, hey, we're so slammed. Could you use more clients? And so what they're trying to do is they're doing a bait and switch, just getting you on the phone and being like, oh, see, you need more clients, so you actually need our help,
Yeah.
right? Versus,
Or
and so
you
they're
can buy the
trying,
clients from them, right? We
right?
have
They're
we have all these clients for $5,000.
Oh,
exactly,
please. Not the
Yeah.
buying the stepped on leads.
Yeah.
yeah.
Buying stepped on leads.
Yeah. Try calling those and get the cuss out.
And well, right. And then, but that's the thing is like that people are trying to, jump the queue. And I get it. There are times that you can do that, but you don't do it if you don't have the foundational skills. If you don't know how to market, you don't know how to sell, and you haven't learned how to do it effectively, or you don't have the billions of dollars to be able to invest in your business to grow that team because you have VC funding. But the likelihood is that that founder, they learned it. They went down, they walked the streets, they knocked on the doors, they figured out what works. They documented the languaging because then they can set other people up for success. But people are, they want this lazy marketing, this lazy leverage, right? That the bros are putting out there in terms of this easy button approach. All you need to do this and you'll make $24 million in 24 hours. This is how
Mhm.
I went from homeless 2 weeks ago to, McMansion, a month later.
Yeah.
I'm so sick of those stories.
Yeah.
No, right? Like
No, you didn't.
learn the skill set to a certain degree. You don't even necessarily have to master it, but if you're looking to build a boutique business, babe, you got to get better at sales and marketing, right? Or you
Mhm.
got to hire some team members to start taking it off your shoulders, and
Absolutely.
you have to be the visionary and CEO, but you got to play a role and you got to figure out what that is.
Yeah. Now, the best cold strategy like that I've seen lately, and I'm setting it up now. The whole strategy, like the push out emails or DMs or whatever, they're pretty good. The best part of the strategy is all the back end. Do you know who your client is? That's the
Mhm,
number one.
mhm,
Okay, where are you going to find them? That was the number two. Number three is you're going to have to research, and make it small. That I think they hooked me when they said make it small. They didn't go, you can do 200 if you buy my system. They were like, if you don't make this small, it's not going to work. And then my ears perked up.
mm.
And they were like, okay, you need to find this person, spend this many, only do a few so you don't get overwhelmed. Like, that makes sense to me.
It's a
Like,
process.
start, yeah. And more than, oh, buy the system and 3,000, LinkedIn DM messages later.
You don't even have the infrastructure. It's like when people say, what's your big ask? And I love when they're like, I want to be on Oprah. And I'm like, it's not gonna happen. Not because it can, absolutely can. You don't have the infrastructure to withstand the demand that will be created
Right.
once you're on Oprah's stage. So
Right.
you're wasting her time by showing up on her stage and not being able to have that. And you're just going to make her look bad. It's why she says no to a majority of people
Yeah.
because she knows the power of her stage and her
Oh, yeah.
platform.
Yeah.
So what's the incremental step? And really aligning the right next step with where you are in
Mm-hmm.
business, where you're wanting to go. Because can you get there? Absolutely. But that you got to want to have that kind of business. And most people don't. But so what's being fed here? You're wanting recognition, you're wanting glory, you're wanting to be validated. So are you looking for that externally, or are you able to create it for yourself internally? So now we're talking mindset. And so looking at where are these strategic moves coming from, and what are they being fed by? And looking at really building a business that is in alignment with your life and where you are right now.
Mhm.
Because I know
Mhm.
the business I had 10 years ago is nothing anywhere close to what I have right now. But back then, 10 years ago, I couldn't deal with what I'm dealing with now and what I'm managing, and the systems and processes. Even though they're documented and they're laid out, I wouldn't have had the understanding to make them work effectively.
But that's a growth process you were just talking about, Daphne,
Right.
right? And you try and skip it, but you might can skip first grade, but you got to go from 6 to
Right.
7,
There's
right?
Right.
Like,
definitely some skipping you can do. Don't get me wrong.
but
Invest in
Right.
yourself, invest in your business.
right.
But there's sometimes where people are just a little too ambitious with their skipping.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
because you brought up Oprah. She recently on Netflix. She did a deal with her name's not Alfred Woodard. Oh man, I can't recall.
Is it
She
People
the
did
have to
How to Get
Google.
Away
memoir?
with Murder and
Oh,
The lady who writes and produces.
not Shonda, but she was the actress in How to Get Away
Okay.
with Murder and
it
she was
wasn't the Viola Davis interview, was
there
it?
we go, Viola Davis. And Viola Davis just wrote a book, and that's basically what the it was about. It was about her pumping up her girl's book.
Yep.
Okay, so I'm sure the book was doing well before,
Yep.
but when Oprah holds up your book and say, "I read this,"
Right.
bam! I don't care who you are.
Open the bank account.
Right. So, but of course she's ready because
Right.
she's probably with a major publisher.
They figured out, they pre-produced and pre-printed and made sure everything was going to be right,
Right.
because they knew the power
She's
was
got
about
her
to
own
happen.
publicist. She's ready because they were like at
And she'd
Oprah's
already
place.
done the work though,
Right.
right? She'd already written it. She'd already gone through several levels of editing. She'd gone on a
Exactly.
promotional tour. This was a stop on her promotional tour.
Mhm.
Right.
It wasn't the end all be all.
Mhm.
And
Exactly.
all of that was based on what? It's not like Viola Davis just woke up and said, I'm going to be on Oprah. She has an
No,
extensive
no.
career to pull from. And God, what she's been through to
Right.
Yeah.
get to the stage.
Right.
And I guarantee you that book doesn't suck.
Oh, yeah, for
No.
sure.
Yeah.
No.
Otherwise, Oprah would not be holding it up.
Right.
Right. So I get that. And
Yeah.
it's the willingness, and that ties back into the theme I'm working through. Take the time and do it.
Give
Set up the
yourself that
basis of
grace.
what's going to
Mhm.
take, of what's going to hold your business up.
Hmm.
This blog, this what is it going to do? Is this where people are going to buy your merch and things of this nature? What is this podcast doing? Because Roberta and I are reworking the back end of our podcast now. What do we intend for it to do? It needs to flow into here, flow into there. What's the flow? What's the communication flow
Right.
Mhm.
from the
Mhm.
time this hits here to the time this hits there?
Yeah.
Be willing to adjust, but you still got the blocks there. No, this has got to, okay, how are we going to make this work? We're going to make this work with a podcast, a blog, a channel. And then what goes into those, and take time building each out.
Right.
And at some point you can turn into, because I think Roberta and I were talking about, what is it? Project turns into a process, turns into a system.
Yes.
Mm,
You got to build the project first, and that may take a bit, and it's okay. Just take a deep breath, and it may take a bit.
Yeah.
You didn't get it done in 2 hours. I don't think so, because I don't think Henry Ford came up with the assembly line in 2 hours. I'm thinking. I don't think
and
so.
even if he
Mm-mm.
had, it was based off of experience, right?
Right.
That
Out of the
took
7
so
failed
years.
businesses before.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I'm back with you, Kat, when you say, okay, and what is it you really want to do? And I know sometimes, I mean, I've been in the seat before and basically strapped myself in because it was paying my mortgage payment, right? And there was
Well,
no
there's a
leaving.
reality around that too.
There's some reality, right? It's not all strawberries and posies and you're going to quit your corporate job and sell Spanx and be a billionaire. It's all that work that you're talking about, Daphne, that goes in. But I think that's part of working to be a whole person. It
Mm,
can't be just, everything, that validation can't just be the check. It can't be my favorite, Frank Kern flashing his wife's ass at me on Facebook saying this is a validation for my marketing skills. I'm like, I think she's actually a person, but could be wrong about that, right? That money, that this, the big car, the, or in my industry, everybody in real estate and mortgages, they brag about how busy they are. It's the top producer award plus how busy. Like, if that's my
Yeah.
only validation in life, like, damn it,
But
it's short.
yeah, but
And I
Frank
I don't
Kern,
want to spend it how many years. Go ahead,
I'm
Daphne.
but
done with
Frank
the
Kern,
hustle
no,
and the grind, right?
yeah,
Like I've been there, done that. I kind of feel like everyone needs to kind of experience it to understand and appreciate when there's not hustle and grind. I'm not afraid to do hard work. I'm not afraid of putting effort in, but I'm not looking to hustle anymore because that's what really amplifies the revenue roller coaster. You make all this money and then you burn yourself out. And so you crash. And so it's just constantly, it's not
Yeah.
even an ebb and flow, it's just peaks and valleys. So, yeah, we ebb and flow, but when it's choice, it's different. I never want to be the victim of my business. And I never want any client to feel like they're the victim of expectation
Mhm.
because that's a lot of what we've been fighting our whole lives.
Mhm.
It's what got me in corporate. It's why I got my MBA and did all the things and business certifications that I did because those were expectations. That
hmm
is what success theoretically was supposed to look like. I achieved it. I lived someone's dream. I didn't want it. Not that I don't appreciate and not that I didn't learn an amazing amount of things, but it wasn't what was in alignment with my soul. That's why passion has to drive the initial vision and focus of the business, or else you're never going to be satisfied. And then you're just going to go and start looking for things like more money and more clients, not because you're necessarily trying to make an impact, but because you're seeking, you're being an energy vampire. And what I mean is you're plugging into other people for that validation, for that valuation of self-worth, instead of standing in your confidence and knowing your impact and knowing the value that you bring and confidently being able to communicate that.
Amen, sister.
yeah, yeah. But Kern knows who he's talking to.
He does.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone remembers this Asian gentleman, Tom Vu. He was late '90s,
Hmm.
and
No.
he wasn't a very tall gentleman. Heavy accent. He was into real estate and flipping in a program like well, real estate, selling a real estate program. And he was
Mhm.
always surrounded by very tall, statuesque blondes. And they would be either in front of his house with a Lambo, or they would be on his boat laying around feeding him grapes while he's walking around talking.
Yeah, he's definitely not selling to me.
No, go to YouTube and check him out. The stuff is just really cheesy 90s stuff. But it worked because this guy became a multimillionaire on simply selling this this real
It's
estate
a
program.
lifestyle brand and people still do it,
Mhm.
But it
male or
worked.
female.
He knew who he was talking to. He knew who he was talking to.
Well, but
You
see,
you
for
want to
me,
be
he knew who
Tom
he was
Vu.
talking to, but he was preying on people. You know what I
Sure.
mean?
Mhm.
Like he was, I don't know whether or not he was delivering value. The problem is that most people deliver, I mean, not most people, the bro marketers deliver as far as a sales call. Once they've got your money, they don't care. And this is where I differentiate myself. That's
Mhm.
not okay in my book. I've been burned by those programs because it was a lifestyle move. I want to experience that. I want that. You're preying on my insecurities and my desires and the gap between the two. And so looking at, but it wasn't actually delivering skill set and capabilities that could actually help me get there. It's kind of like when you buy a book off Amazon and you never read it. It's like the buying it kind of made you feel good. You got a little bit of a dopamine
Oh
hit,
yeah.
Oh
but
dear.
you didn't ever. And I just got a stack of them too. And
Oh, Daphne and I will
great
do that with
recommendation,
programs.
right? How many courses or freebies have we all downloaded or invested? Low dollar, high dollar, I don't care, right? At the end of the day, I the lifestyle brands irk me because the majority of them don't actually deliver substantial content that helps build a skill set when it comes to that biz dev, like because that's the space that I'm in. And so it's really infuriating whether it's a man or a woman. who just sell like that, like be buyer beware. If all they're sharing is how they're living and laptop lifestyle, which the mom in me is always like, it's going to fall in the pool. You're just gonna have to buy a new laptop, right? Like freaking out, like get away from the edge of the water. So like, or just put your phone in a baggie on the sand. So, but looking at that, because that's your fault. That's a buyer's fault. They're just doing what they're getting reinforced with in terms of credit card numbers being processed. Teach them by withholding the investment and really do your research on someone before just falling on a whim. It's why I'm so focused on driving value, because those create those resounding and powerful hell's yes investments. Because then what happens is those people do the work.
Yeah.
And that's the difference.
Well, I mean, some of those people could care less if you do the work.
No,
They don't care.
don't.
They
And there's
don't.
a special
And
place for them in the afterlife. So,
well, and the flip side of that is we're all adults, and you can't make somebody.
right.
If they're not going to do the work, they're not going to do it, and if they want to buy it and leave it under the desk. It's up to them. But there's a balance of saying, hey, I want to disqualify you as a buyer because I know you're not going to do the work, and I don't want to be that person who just takes your money.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want to be that person that just takes your money.
Yeah.
It's tempting. So we started off, you were talking about revenue acceleration.
Mm-hmm.
So give us a little kind of in-depth into what that is.
So, for how I explain it to my clients, that's my process: connect, converse, and close. And so looking really at that positioning, your offer, where's that fast ROI, right? All of that has to do with connecting with people, having real conversation, because the majority of people already have all they need, all the leads they'll need to create a multi-six-figure business, right? Like they don't need, so many people are focused on driving new leads and adding cold water to a warm tub essentially. And it doesn't feel good. I like my tubs, like my baths nice and hot. And if I add cold water, it just ruins the whole thing.
Mhm.
And so really looking at sparking those conversations. So how do you spark them when you don't know the angle? You feel like it's been a while since you've talked to them. So you leverage the conversation. How do you have conversations? You got to have context. Reaching out to someone randomly and saying, hey, how's your business? Right? However, if you just attended, my workshop or my podcast mixer, and I reached out and said, hey, so you attended my podcast mixer, how are your efforts going on your podcasting, initiatives? You'd be willing to answer my question. Whereas if I asked even that exact same question randomly from stranger to stranger, you're going to be like sales, danger, 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 don't engage, right? Unfriend,
Right.
don't even accept, whatever it is. So we want to create context for the conversation. And that experience allows you to continue to strategically move people into the different experiences that are available to them, because the more they experience you, the faster they're going to get to a decision. And the decision, whether it's a yes or a no, is the most important thing to get to, because it helps you get to your people faster and it helps you build a pipeline. Even of people who said no, they didn't tell you to F off, they just said no. It's not personal. The
Right.
no isn't personal, the yes isn't personal. And so really looking at building that for yourself and that structure and that system, and then moving into how you're inviting people to the close and what that experience is as well. And so that's kind of how you accelerate your revenues, is you build the process and the systems so that every single day, it's not, what do I need to do? It's, I know exactly what to do, because I know exactly what offer I'm focused on. And I have the exact steps and who to reach out to be able to hit those revenue targets consistently and predictably.
That good pre-planning.
Yep.
Yep. No, and the firework is the next thing I'm going to do. I have a few other things swimming around. I just need to make up my mind. Do that pre-thought
Yep.
out like Daphne's talking about.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because
It's
she's
about
got
being
to.
intentional and having that system that you can repeat.
Yeah.
Yes, the fire experience, because that's another way of saying it. Because I am having a live meetup of women in Bitcoin here in Houston. Put it up on Meetup, find the spot, and actually have it. And it's okay if I'm the only one sitting there the first time I do it.
And the
Oh,
likelihood is that you won't. It builds over time.
yeah.
And then the people who come and because they have a great experience become your ambassadors because of a birds of a feather flock together. So really focusing on that customer experience helps you create leverage in your business later down the line.
Right. Because
Absolutely.
it is consistency in doing it. Because I've joined several things with women that I was interested in, and they petered out. And
Hmm.
it wasn't because the folks stopped coming. It was because the organizer,
Didn't show up.
yeah, stopped doing it. You know, oh, you had 2, 3 meetings. We came. It was cool. We laughed. We had food.
It probably
Yeah.
felt like too much work. And so that person didn't do it because it wasn't necessarily aligned to their strengths, or they didn't put enough strategic thought into how to create ease in doing my podcast. I love doing them. I get so much positive feedback from it. And it's just, I always think about what's new, what's different. How can I make this even better each and every single time? Because it feeds my soul, because it's absolutely in alignment with those two things. It's definitely in my strengths, and it's definitely an area that my clients are actively looking for support with.
Yeah. So, Kat, we're like way past an hour. Well, not way past an hour, but whatever.
Yeah, we're in the Rogan territory now. We fine.
Yeah. So where can people get a hold of you? Where should they find you if they're interested in talking to you about firework experience or experiencing your content or even the podcast mixer?
Yeah,
We'll
I
definitely
mean,
put it in the show notes, but
yes. Well, I have a couple of resources if that's okay to share, like you mentioned.
absolutely.
So the first one is if you're someone who values community, who's driving, deliverables to your clients, and you've got established success in your business, then come check out my firework experience, my podcast mixer, and you can find that at leadbossmixer.com.
Okay.
And then if you're looking to stack some wins, activate some of those current connections, I do have a 3-part instant access training that you can find at fullybooked.com. And basically, it gives you how to break out an hour of lead gen, some social swipe to leverage to have people raise their hands to work with you, and then also how I lead people through a close when it comes to sales calls to increase conversion without putting more effort into it.
Okay. I actually went through that myself and it was really good. It's good info in there.
Okay.
Actionable.
Yep.
All right, ladies. It was great having you, Kat. Daphne, I always get to spend an hour with you.
Yes, it is. It's
Thank you for
awesome.
having me.
And you are awesome also, Kat.
Thank you. Y'all are amazing.
Hey, so look, those of you out there, hey, thanks for joining us. And we're going to get on out of here. Bye bye.